So the last time I was here at home, my little brother was learning how to cook. And as a 21-year-old college student, his first quest was chicken. Well, during our chicken lesson, I actually realized that there's a lot to know when it comes to cooking chicken, like what type of chicken to buy, how to cut it, and most importantly, how to not overcook it. But hey, now my brother makes chicken almost every single week. And so in this video, I want to share the tips that I gave him on how to make perfect chicken every single time. Okay, here's what you'll need. First, the chicken. And chances are, if you're watching this video, you're on that protein grind, meal prepping tons of chicken breast to get those gains. But if you're a beginner, I'd recommend starting with chicken thigh instead. Because chicken thigh is a little bit more fatty than chicken breast, and all that extra fat will render into a delicious juice, which will prevent the thigh from overcooking or drying out. In fact, chicken thigh can be cooked way past the recommended temperature of 165 degrees up to even 185 degrees without drying out. And this is just not the case with chicken breast. And this is important because if you're like me, you're going to overcook your chicken a few times, and when that happens, you don't want to ruin your meal. On top of that, chicken thighs reheat better, which makes them great for leftovers, and they're cheaper, which is a win-win all around. To prep your chicken, you'll need a cutting board, a sharp knife, and a mixing bowl. And I like to keep a separate set of these just for meat to prevent cross-contamination. Now, perhaps the most important ingredient in this video, a meat thermometer. I cannot tell you how many times I've chickened out of making chicken before I discovered this, because I was scared of either undercooking chicken and getting food poisoning, or of overcooking chicken and ending up with these dry, rubbery nuggets. Because unless you're a pro, it's just really hard to tell when chicken is done just by looking at it or by tasting it. But with a meat thermometer, you just stab it in to the thickest part of the chicken, and once it reads 165 degrees Fahrenheit, you know it's done. It's really that simple. And these thermometers are only like $15 to $20 on Amazon. So if you don't have one, pause this video, go add it to your cart, and you'll thank me later. Unless you want your chicken to look like this, we'll need some seasonings. First, salt. When you marinate with salt, it'll help dissolve the protein strands in the meat, which will help the chicken absorb and retain water better when cooking. And this will all help just make the meat more tender and juicy. Second, you'll need an acid, which will also help tenderize the meat. I like to use yogurt for this. And third, you'll need spices. If you want, you can buy these ready-made spice mixes like these, or you can make my Indian-inspired mix with salt, pepper, chili powder, turmeric, garam masala, and coriander powder. And finally, to cook the chicken, we'll need a pan and then some oil, like olive oil or canola oil. So before we jump into cooking chicken, let's talk hygiene. Because raw or undercooked chicken can contain bacteria that causes food poisoning, the most common type of bacteria being salmonella. In fact, this really surprised me. 1 in every 25 packages of chicken contains salmonella, according to the USDA. Those are odds I just don't want to mess with, so to virtually eliminate your risk, you have to do 2 things. First, clean anything that gets in contact with raw chicken. This means when you're handling chicken, make sure not to touch anything else that you don't need to, like your phone. And then after you're done with the chicken, wash your hands thoroughly for 20 seconds with soap and warm water. And then clean all surfaces and utensils that touch the chicken, like cutting board, knife, countertops, and even the sink. And then second, as we talked about, make sure to cook your chicken to at least 165 degrees to help kill any bacteria that might be in it. Now that we got that out of the way, let's cook some simple pan-seared chicken. And by the way, the entire recipe with measurements will be down below under the like button. First, prep. Taking 1 piece of chicken at a time, trim off any fat and other white bits like these tendons using a sharp knife. And generally, if you're going to be cutting your chicken into smaller pieces, like for a stir fry or for a curry, make sure that they're the same size and thickness. And just remember, the thinner or the smaller a piece of chicken is, the faster it'll cook, and also the more prone it is to overcooking. Then, once you're done, place the chicken into a bowl and then wash your hands, your tools, and the workstation. To marinate, add all of those seasoning ingredients into the bowl with the chicken and mix well. Get your hands really in there to rub that flavor into every nook and cranny. Remember, we want these thighs to save lives. Then cover the bowl and let it sit in the fridge for ideally at least 30 minutes. Okay, finally, it is time to cook the chicken. Preheat your pan with a tablespoon of oil on medium heat, and make sure to wait until the pan heats up thoroughly, which will take around 2 to 3 minutes, and you can tell it's ready when you hover your hand over the pan and it feels warm. Once the pan is ready, add the chicken. And at this point, you should hear a nice sizzle. Cook the chicken on one side for a few minutes. You'll know it's ready to flip when it easily releases from the pan and has a golden char on the bottom, like this. If the chicken seems stuck to the pan, it probably just needs a little bit more time to cook. Now, keeping in mind that the thinner and smaller pieces of chicken will cook faster, check each piece individually and flip each when ready. Once you've flipped each piece, just wait another minute for the other side to cook. At this point, get your thermometer handy and then stab it into different parts of the thigh to check its temperature. For reference, I do this every 30 seconds because chicken cooks pretty quickly, especially once it hits 140 degrees. You'll know when the chicken is done when the thickest part of the thigh reaches 165 degrees Fahrenheit. And as you're doing this, you might notice varying temperatures within the same chicken thigh. The thinner part might hit 180 just as the thickest part reaches 165. But this is why I told you to buy chicken thigh, because even at 180 degrees, the meat will still remain moist and tender. You smell the chicken? As each piece finishes cooking, take it off the heat. Then let the chicken sit for about 5 minutes before you slice, just to let those juices settle. Yummy? And here is our beautifully golden, juicy chicken. I also want to share some recipe ideas to turn this into a more balanced meal. First idea, you can add some roasted vegetables and white rice to make a chicken and rice bowl. This was my go-to when I lived in Texas, and it's also really perfect for meal prep. Or you can make tacos with carbs from the tortilla and veggies from a simple tomato salsa. And this can also be customized with avocado or beans or even sauteed vegetables. And you can also use all of these tips that I shared to make Indian chicken dishes, like my go-to chicken curry or my recent culinary adventure, chicken biryani. And I want to hear from you. What is your favorite chicken recipe? And do you like chicken thighs or chicken breasts? Do you use a thermometer, or are you just experienced enough to know when chicken is done? Also, just let me know if there's any other tips that you think I missed down below in the description to help all of us out. Thank you again for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye! Overcook it. Wait, what? No, how to... the thigh. Pie. Come join me. Thank you. That's all. Stay safe. Hey, don't... No. Boo 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 boo. Okay, first bite for Yogi. Yummy?